good time today. Frankenstein's Army was a Kickstarter project, and I wish they were all this good. It's total mayhem, total pandemonium, but it's also a movie with a message most people completely miss. Now, am I going to start harping on about philosophy in this video? A little. I'm not going to go all Ryan Hollinger on you, talk about, however, this point and that. I'm not going to go crazy with it. But I am going to a little bit address the philosophy in the room, but not too much, because let's face it, we're not watching Frankenstein's Army because we want to get all intellectual here. We're watching Frankenstein's Army because we want a bunch of crazy zomboid things. We want to see some blood. We want to see some crazy chaos. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to give you. I am CJ. This is the Found Footage Broadcast. I would normally roll the intro here, but we just did a lot of music there. So let's do a short intro. That'll do. So, where to start? Frankenstein's Army. So here we are in World War II, and we're following a ragtag recon group from the Soviet Communist Army out to hunt some Nazis. And it's always good to hunt Nazis. Yep. Now, just because these guys are hunting Nazis doesn't mean they're good guys. They're just the guys who won. I'm not saying, however, that the Nazis are the good guys. I am not saying that. It's in every World War II movie, the Nazis are the bad guys. Always good to shoot a Nazi in every movie ever. It's all. I'm not going there. But what I am saying is that these guys, our heroes, aren't nice either. We'll get into that. But don't worry, it's okay. This is a horror movie. What do you think happens to them? Oh, by the way, before I go any further, this is going to be 95% spoiler free. I'm going to cover stuff that you might have seen in the trailers and plot synopsis, but that's all I'm really going to get into, other than broad strokes. How was the movie? And we're going to get into, should you watch it near the end? And that's it. Going to keep it nice and simple and spoiler free, okay? So here's Dimitri. He's our cameraman who's carrying around a super high-tech camera that's going to capture color and sound, which no other camera during World War II could do. We're going to let that go. This is a movie with zombies, with propeller heads. Let's not get all pedantic about it. This is the big guy. I don't remember his name. He's the big guy. There's the sniper, kind of a ranger kind of dude. Here's Sasha. That's his name. And he's the young innocent one that we're supposed to feel something for. You get the sense with Sasha that the only reason he isn't terrible is he hasn't had a chance yet. Here's our fearless leader, whose name escapes me, just like everybody else really. Oh, and here's the goofball, who's basically like Alex from Clockwork Orange if he was Russian and in World War II. Oh, and here's our like hero, the sweet guy who's here just because he loves his girlfriend. That's why he fights. And he shows us a little picture in a locket, and it's so sweet. So, nice guy, right? He's the one nice guy who's gonna get everybody on board with this morality shit, right? Right? Oh, look, a farmhouse. What could be in there? Oh, look, it's a woman and 3 children. Pop, pop, pop. There we go. And now we're all well fed and completely drunk. And oh, look, there's our sweet morality guy holding the camera, partying with the rest of them. Woohoo, good times. So basically, these Russian soldiers saw some innocent woman with some innocent children and said, hey, she's got resources we could use. Let's go kill her. Just like the modern Russian army. Slava Ukraine. So let's get into our plot. After a few days of not being able to get anything on the radio, they finally get a signal from another recon group that's in trouble. And they give coordinates. It's a little weird because there shouldn't be anybody else out there. And yet, here we are, getting a signal. So we got to go check it out. We got to help our comrades in arms. Now, along the way, they, come across the carnage of war. It's kind of a normal thing. We also have been getting some fun action sequences mixed in here. We got some fighting, some explosions, some general good times. And along the way, they come across this one corpse. And weirdly, it's got this mechanical hand. But whatever, we're busy. We'll look into it later if we ever have time. I'm sure it's not important. So eventually they get to a church and a small village, and they find that all the graves have been dug up and everybody in the town's been slaughtered and their corpses have been stacked in these wagons, except for this one poor nun who's not quite dead, but she's been stacked up with the rest. And I mean, there's no way she could have been mistaken for actually dead. She's got, a fair amount of life left in her, but they injured her enough that she couldn't move. So our brave Russian comrades help her out by putting her out of her misery without asking her any questions. I thought that was an interesting choice. And we're just left to wonder what the hell's going on. Why are all the graves empty? Why are people being stacked in wagons? And here we go. Here we go. This is where things start. Whereas we gradually discover that there is a doctor in the area who's been doing experiments on basically everyone he can get his hands on. And we end up seeing our first glimpses of monsters. Now, as we're exploring the one building, we start up the generator and spark crackle, this strange, corpse? Human-shaped thing gets up from the ground. And it doesn't talk. It doesn't move right. But it definitely isn't on our side. And so after a violent encounter with this thing, this is just foreshadowing. Very soon, the soldiers are attacked and beset by people from every angle. It's total mayhem. Now, along the way, they find some survivors. You have like 3 different people, an older soldier, a woman, and a child, all of whom don't end up in the rest of the movie. And that's all I'll say about that. But, of significance, I kind of want to give you a heads up on something. This is not a plot point. This does not have anything to do with where the movie's going. But if you're trying to decide whether or not you should watch this movie, I need to give you a heads up on this one scene right here. After some wild stuff goes on, which I won't spoil, this guy right here decides, hey, I think I'm going to take advantage of this young woman. And of course, our little heartthrob says, oh, no, don't. And that's about all he does. But don't worry. Luckily, monsters show up before anybody gets their pants off, and murder ensues, which is something we all feel a lot better about. So as we explore the dungeons and explore the underground factory for creating these super soldiers, things go crazy from there. I won't spoil anything else, but I will say this, that even though this is on the surface very much a creature feature, there's also this sort of subtext that these guys that we're following are fighting the fascists in the name of communism. So it's communism versus fascism. And they refer to it a lot. They talk about how basically fascists shouldn't be kept alive, doesn't matter how their age, their sex, any reason at all fascists should be exterminated in the name of communism. And at the same time, they show over and over through their actions and through the various events of the movie, especially in the last quarter, that communism, life under communism is pretty dehumanizing as well. And there's an effort at the end to sort of equate the two, to say, well, any kind of ism is just as bad as any other kind of ism. Now, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but the point being that there's an effort at saying, why do you think you're so great? Everyone's kind of a piece of crap. This is the philosophy attempted here. I don't know if it carries off, because for the most part, when you're looking at reviews for this movie, nobody even acknowledges that this is something that's discussed, even though there is a big surgical procedure at the end of the movie directly addressing this philosophy and very much literally stating this is the premise behind a lot of what's going on, behind what Dr. Frankenstein is up to. It's not... The conclusion is muddy enough that you can't really walk away with a clear sort of takeaway on how you're supposed to feel about any of it. Just really all you're feeling is glad that this is a horror movie, and horror movie stuff happened to all these people, because screw them all. But wild. I mean, it's not a think piece. is what I'll say. They tried to have their cake and eat it too. They tried to have, complete mayhem and thoughtful philosophy at the same time, and often simultaneously. I mean, you have somebody in a complete panic and in a lot of pain being engaged by Dr. Frankenstein in a philosophical discussion. And in most movies, that's just played for terror and played for horror, because the philosophy itself is played as just a rationale to madness. But in this case, Dr. Frankenstein was doing insane things regardless of whether or not he had these particular beliefs. So it's a little pointless. It doesn't really add up. But who cares? I mean, we're not here for that. But I'm a little surprised, actually, that there isn't more arguing in philosophy around the discussion of Frankenstein's army, because they really do make it explicit that this was the point of a lot of what's going on, and the point of the thing. Most people walk away with, oh, well, I guess the message is war is hell. I mean, yeah, war is hell. But the reason this is World War II as opposed to anything else is forget it. Like, guy with a giant drill bit for a face. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's why we're watching this movie. So whatever, it's cool. But I think maybe it's time to address the big question, the main question, the only question that matters. Should you watch it? I think if you're up for blood and brains and a lot of brown in the sets, actually, yeah, I mean, just enough mayhem to keep your interest. It wasn't, and by necessity, it wasn't as vibrantly colored as I think would have served this type of content, and they couldn't. I mean, they were already kind of cheating with the resolution of the image and the clarity of the audio. I mean, they're already kind of cheating, so they couldn't make it as giallo style as would have sold this movie. But having said that, I think as just a total mayhem, a wild party, this gives you the craziness. And it's the kind of thing that, like, I could see people wanting action figures of all the monsters, because the creature designs, oh my god, if you're into good creature design monsters, the best. And I won't really go into them because, again, I think it's more fun to watch it in the movie and just see them pop out at you without it being spoiled. But after you've watched the movie, do check out the Wikipedia, because the Wikipedia has them all listed with their names and little details about their manufacturer, and a little controversy around how Resident Evil may or may not have stolen the design of the one Propeller Head guy. I think it's just coincidence. I think it's one of those things where more than one person can have the same idea. But anyway, that's my opinion. For the rest of you, there's a series of people who should not watch this movie, though. Obviously, if you don't like looking at brains, don't watch this movie. There are many, many brains in this movie. Only a few in surgical settings. So there's that. And, if you require a hero or a protagonist that is actually a good guy, you're not going to really get one in this. There's not a single good person in this entire movie. So that might bother you, because you can't really identify with anybody here. And, well, if you're a Nazi, don't watch any movie and stop watching my channel and go away. Overall, though, great movie. If you're a found footage fan, you got to check it out. And there's some argument about, immersion, as far as like, yeah, the camera was too good, the audio was too good. Okay, but I'd rather it be too good than too crappy. And I think for something where it's all about great big monsters, let's cheat a little so I can see the monsters, right? I mean, there are so many of them and they're so cool. So I'm glad the picture was good. Next week, I'm going to do an indie feature, The House on Haunted Grounds. But meanwhile, what did you think of Frankenstein's Army? Was it vapid? Did I imagine all this philosophy? I mean, the truth is, I didn't even notice the subtext to any of it the first time I watched it. It was only the second time that I picked up on the fact that this was very intentionally steeped in philosophy. So I'm curious about whether or not you even noticed. All right, you crazy creatures. I'll see you next time.
This is Burkittsville, formerly Blair.
Make a video
diary for my unborn